My name's Beth Guide. I'm with Vertical Web, and today's discussion is going to be on local SEO, what it is, how to take care of it, and how it impacts your business and why it's relevant. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that part. I'm going to start with the part of what it is and why. About 10 years ago, Google went ahead and started plugging map listings in their search results. So if you were a localized business or a business that did that worked within a, like let's say a 50-mile radius of an area, they went ahead and started putting you on Google, on their map listing. I'm going to bring up a screen just so we're all make sure that we're talking about the same thing here and we know what I'm talking about. I'm going to go share. Let me see, where's this Chrome? Let me get a Chrome window open here and then we can share. We can do that just so we can make sure we're all in the right spot and we know what I'm talking about, because these are really very much different than other SEO types that we've talked about. So I'm going to do web design Houston. And you notice I put the Houston word in there. When I do, we are presented with a map. There's several people on the map and it shows those companies. And we need to, as a localized business, we need to start to understand what that is and how that is and how we got there. If you come down into the organic listings, what you'll notice is that they, meaning Google, has added directories like UpCity. And so there's a kind of a smattering between what is a web hosting or a web design company rather versus what is real. If I do, Mexican restaurant. I had that for dinner last night, so it's kind of on my mind. I just do Mexican restaurant, and I'm going to take off the near me just for a second. If I do Mexican restaurant, it goes ahead and pulls up a map, and it gives me, some of the Mexican restaurants in my area. I'm in Kingwood today. I'm out at my house, so as a result, I'm getting the listings for a localized set of listings. Now, not as bad as the web design. You'll see that the first listing is TripAdvisor. So what Google's done is they said, okay, if you're a local business or you're doing a localized set of businesses, which I would say with the Chamber of Commerce, 99% of you guys are smaller businesses that have localized traffic or work in a local area. Now, if you're in Houston, we have a special set of challenges, a little bit more than what we do when we are when we're in a smaller town or a smaller area. So if I'm in the Woodlands, I have a much different set of challenges than when I'm here in Houston. So with that said, I just want to make sure everybody's clear that we understand we're talking about these map listings. Google's bar on this has always changed. Any one of you, especially if you have walk-in business, this applies to. So I think that even if you're Walgreens or Walmart, they even have localized listings based on a map and proximity. Now, what I will say is that Google went through it's been almost 10 years now. They did it in 2013. They went out and they defined every word in the English language and decided what user intent is. So when I put in auto mechanic, they're assuming that my intent is to go find an auto mechanic, which that's a pretty good assumption. What they also assume is that I am not willing to go more than 5 miles past my house. Because if I need an auto repair, the chances are I'm not going to go drive 30 miles to go find somebody to come and repair my house or my car rather. So they assume that there's certain things related to your proximity that you're willing to do. If I'm in downtown Houston, the chances are if I'm looking for a Mexican restaurant, I'm looking for a Mexican restaurant in downtown Houston. I'm not going to be looking for a Mexican restaurant in Huntsville based on the fact of where I am. So they do a lot of proximity type searches and definitions of words. So the history of that is that they feel that these searches are better suited to do it this way and to provide information in that manner than it is to go ahead and provide information in a broad manner and do it. Now I'm going to take a word like web hosting and I'll put that one in and I'll show you. I feel like, or SEO, just let me use plain old fashioned SEO. Let me put my screen back up here and we'll do a screen share here. So if I just put in SEO without any type of relationship, what you'll notice is that these are very broad terms. They are not terms that are anything to do with an SEO company. Now they did localize it. They did run a local pack inside of it. But if you notice, the results are not any type of local term. So this is a really good delimiter of what I'm talking about. So if I put in SEO, Google's assumption is I'm looking for somebody to help me, or some general version of information and not somebody. So they're going with the user intent. So they've defined all these words and we're now stuck in that bottle of what they defined. So we need to understand that before we can even go anything further. So if you're an accountant, you're in a local realm. If you're an SEO company, you're in a local realm. If you're a auto mechanic, you're local. If you're just somebody that's a blogger that writes general information, you may be national. So it kind of varies based on what those search terms are. The best, quickest way you can have a signal to find out what is the right way to go is if there is a map on your page, you know that you have two bars. One is your organic that we talk about, and the other is local. They are two distinctively different algorithms and have to be handled differently on each one. Okay, so just to understand, and I am only talking today, or I'm going to try to only talk. You guys may have questions, but I'm only going to try to talk today on what are the local search aspects and those type situations, and what do we have to do. Now, one of the things I will say to you is that if there is a map listing on a page, your aspiration should be to get in that local listing, because the data seems to imply that 95% of the people go for that map listing when the map appears. Everything else seems to fall away from the wayside and they go directly to the map. That 95% is a really high bar. They used to give 8 choices. Now they only give 3. So that kind of puts everybody under a gun to try to get into the top 3 there. So we really have got to work towards working in that direction, because it's really important when that much traffic is going. And I'm going to say, you all know that I had to take this and I made a new site over it and all that other good stuff that I did. And I don't know if this will work from my house in Houston, all right, or in Kingwood. So I'll put that up front.
The next part is the title.
Hold on, I got to mute everybody. Okay, so when you come in here, and I actually see myself right here on the map, you see they have the ones that appear here, 1, 2, and 3, and one of them is an ad. When I pull the camera, when I push the button to show more, you'll see that's actually my office. So we are on the map. We're just not in the top 3. So one of my goals with my brandy new website is going to be to move into the top 3. And if you see, I just which is going to make a liar out of me and not put it here. I got to put, you know why it's confused? Because of where I am. So you see here I am right in that Hedwick village where I was. Well, I was right there and now I disappeared again. All right, so there I am there. So I am on this map. It's just that I'm not in the top 3. So one of my goals needs to be get in the top 3. So even if I rank, which I do, underneath the map, in these sections here, that's not good enough anymore. It's this area here that we're focusing on. So just so you all understand why we want to do that. Now, if I go back a few years, when there was 8 there, we had a much better position and a much better ability to get somebody here. And the numbers were not so dire that we had to try to get into this top 3. When there was 8, that 8-pack, although if I looked at all 8 people, they shared that 95%, it was kind of split across them. But since they went with a 3-pack, it's really kind of put a little bit of a crimp in the pipeline here. So just understand that's what it is. And then the other thing you have to understand is that they're basing everything on the intent of the user and assuming that when they do a search that they want somebody as a local business. And that's an important thing for us to know, that they want a localized business. So making sure the dog is muted because my dad hears the class kick on, and he just has to come and make sure they make noise. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to start a little bit about talking about what those guidelines are, and where we need to go. So Google has an overall guide about your business and whether it meets the criteria. I am going to put the link in the chat window for everybody so that you guys can go look this over on your own, read and understand it, okay? Because it's kind of an important thing to do, to understand. But it's a guideline for, does your business qualify? Is this what you're supposed to be doing? Is this the road you're supposed to be on? What is prohibited? Because there are prohibited businesses within Google. Whether we agree with them or not, and I guess let me just say it this way. Google's its own person in its own company, and if it decides it doesn't want to show a type of business and it's equitable across the board with that, there's nothing really we can do. So just make sure that you understand what isn't there. And I venture to say everybody in this room does not have a prohibited business. Okay. I think we could probably read between the lines on that and understand what that is, but they did go ahead and do that, and make that delimiter there. The next thing overall, when you look down, the things that jump out, and I'm just going to kind of give you the highlight reel of this so you understand. They need to make sure that they know who the owners are. They need to make sure that you're a valid business. They need to make sure that you are not some scam out there running, because they're basically, they're making these listings. They're sort of taking on some level of vetting to make sure that these are reasonable and real businesses. So make sure that you have your paperwork in order. One of the most popular questions that I get, and I think it's probably in here somewhere, is about your address. They have service areas now, so you don't have to, you're not just locked in anymore with an address. If you want to do a service area opposed to an address, that's fine. I'm going to strongly encourage you to use an address if you can, because everything is based on proximity. But we're going to talk a little bit about how to get around that proximity some as well. There's also some content guidelines. And it explains overall what categories are, how you decide what your categories are. I'm going to kind of go through a profile here in just a minute, but I want you to understand what the guidelines are and how this kind of works. So this is a document that you can scan over and understand. Like if you're a multi-location business, they have to be handled differently than if you're just one business. And I'm looking, I don't think anybody here is that I can tell. Maybe John. Score has multiple offices, although they only have one in a city. So Score has it on a national level, but localized, we only have the Houston chapter. So it would probably be okay locally. But if I was going to pull the camera out and look for, Score chapters across the country, that would start to be different. They need to make sure that they have their ducks in a row differently than a single location in a city type place. So just understand what the rules of the road are with that. Does anybody have local has 12 or so maybe one or two? Yeah, see, that's the thing. So if there's one or two, like I had an office in Kingwood and I had an office in Houston. When I did the consolidation of all these companies. I put them all together at the Houston address because Kingwood gets me nowhere. It's great that I have a listing in Kingwood. Yeah, awesome. I think all the people in Kingwood during the day are in downtown Houston. So it kind of serves not a super big purpose for me to be here. So you just have to kind of use your judgment on that. I mean, does anybody have any questions before I kind of keep trudging on here on this? Okay, I'm going to assume that you're all good so far. Okay. The one thing that you have to have is documentation for all of this. And what I've learned of recent is that Google actually will take documentation. So, and I'm going to use my company as an example because it kind of is an interesting evolution of what we wanted to do. So I knew that I was going to shut down SEO 411. I knew I was going to bring vertical web up, but I didn't want to lose the positioning of SEO 411 per se. So I actually told Google to put my two profiles together, the Kingwood and the Houston, and push everything into the Houston location for me, which they did. There was a couple of schools of thought on that because some people think, oh, well, if I have listings everywhere, I'm better off to do that. And what my thought was I had split reviews, meaning I had 10 in Houston. I had or 8 in Kingwood and 10 in Houston or something along those lines. I was better to have more reviews on one profile than I was to have multiple profiles split across. So that was the first decision. So I decided to smack them all together. And then I knew I was going to do a name change. So when I went to do the name change, I had to actually give them the Secretary of State paperwork that showed what I was doing. I am not afraid to do that. I had a chiropractor that he's changed the name of his practice. I sent him down to the city of Humble. He got me a DBA. We filed the DBA with Google. So they're really starting to understand that businesses have challenges and that things happen. But as long as you can document the path, that you're not trying to game their system, they're far more receptive to that than they are if you're kind of trying to jimmy the locks a little bit. So I actually am a proponent of talking to them when possible. So now we've learned a trick. There's you pay them $39 and you can call them on the phone. Now, if you're going to pay them $39 and call them on the phone because you're trying to figure out how to wiggle around them, they're not going to answer you. So save your $39 and do something different with it. But if you genuinely need an answer and you can't get the answer, the better way to go with that is to actually go through their help system, pay the money. And if you have a complex problem, how do I rank in the number 3 position is not a complex problem. That's a you don't know what you're doing problem. So those become a different set, but like mine, I need to change the name of my company. I have a different set of circumstances. So you just kind of have to use your judgment on what's the best way to approach that. But again, as long as you're trying to be on the up and up and do face-to-face business with people and work with people fairly or with Google fairly and explain what you're doing, chances are you'll come out on the other side okay. And honestly, I never thought I'd hear myself say, hey, spend the $39, give Google a call. I do know what to call them with and what not to call them with. Okay, so I will say that you'll easily aggravate them if you start, well, I want to be, no, that's not the kind of questions they're soliciting. They're soliciting, how do I solve a problem with a name? I'm rebranding my business. What do I do? Those type things. But don't be afraid to send them the documentation because that's kind of an important thing. Now, that's new information for you because in most cases, I don't think I've ever in a classroom setting said, yes, send Google your DBA from the state of Texas. That's not genuinely or generally something that I would do. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start into the elements of the page. So I make sure we kind of do this all together. All right. So the first thing you want to do Actually, I'm going to say the second thing, the first thing you're going to want to do, let me see if I can get to it here. The first thing you need to do is scan your website and what you're looking for. And I have a free tool here. I'm going to actually need to move the tool over to vertical web. I haven't done it yet, but as we're having this discussion, we need to run a check on your business. So I am going to do, let me do this because I think this one has the suppression on it now. So what you're looking for on this is that everything has to match exactly. Actually, let's see at this one. I don't know if I still have the suppression on this or not. So what we're looking for is consistency, because Google is going to be looking for the consistency within your name, address, and phone number. Okay, so this one still has a, no, it doesn't. Okay, good. This is good. Oh, no, it does still have it. Shoot. Okay, so this one, so there's a couple different things. I'm going to have to find one that doesn't have it. Who in here wants to give me their business address and name, please? Just throw it up in the window, because I want to do one that I don't think has a service on it, so you can see what happens when it blows up. Maybe SEO 411 doesn't anymore because I pulled it off. Okay, yeah, thanks, Sarah. I appreciate it. All right, I need the address for it. And then put the phone number while I'm doing this one, please. BLVD. Texas 77056. And then the phone number. Okay, so 281-892-2383. Okay, all right, so I'm going to run this, and I don't think you have a suppression. Okay, so here you go. So what this is doing is it's going across all these data aggregation sites, and it's checking to see what address matches the address that I just put in there. So you see there's only a 35% accuracy on this one. So what's happened is Google has it right, okay? Yahoo has it right. Bing doesn't have a listing. Facebook is wrong. This one here, it says 2 Post Oak. It's giving us like a check as if it's correct, but it doesn't really match because she told me it was 1707 Post Oak. This one says 2. What's the can you unmute yourself and tell me what the deal is with this 2 Post Oak that's showing up everywhere? I'll zoom. I need you. Yeah, Sarah, if you can unmute yourself there and tell me what's happening with that. Because what I'm seeing here when I look at this is that it has a 2 Post Oak address on it. What I'm imagining is that was an old address, maybe. So what's happening here, when I look at this one, let me see if we've got my screen shared now. Where did it go? All right. Stop. Let me make sure I'm doing this right here. Hold on a second. So we'll kind of go down this real quick. So if you look, only 35% of them are right. A lot of them have this 2 post oak. Because it doesn't match, we're almost immediately penalized for that to not be right. Some of them have no listing, some of them have the wrong listing, some of them have the right listing. The objective on this listing accuracy is to have 100%. The other part that's supposed to be here is that you should have reviews. So this business right out of the box is hampered because it's got a mismatch on its address. It has a mismatch on, it's missing in spots, and then on top of it all, it has no reviews. So what happens is they basically cast that off to the side, and that business is completely demoted down to the bottom. So if we take my new business now, which, and actually I'm going to use SEO 411 because I disconnected everything because it is out of business. So like from in a state of Texas kind of way, it's out of business. So hold on a minute. 94582 Kingwood Drive. And this is not the right phone number for it, which is 713-703-3030. All right. So if I run this address, let's see what it gives us on a scan. If it's going to even scan. Yeah. Okay. So it's going to, no, it seems to still say I have a power listing on this one. But if you look, it's, I can tell it's not doing the right thing because Facebook's disconnected. Google is like showing weird. That's not really us. It partly is. So if you notice it goes over to vertical web. So it's still a little bit confused as to what it is. But the point of the matter is I end up, because I have this power listing, I have 100%. Your objective is as close to 100% as absolutely possible so that you can, the businesses that rank well are at 100%. So you need to make sure all your stuff matches. I'm going to also tell you that you can go all the way down to, on the address Sarah gave us, it had the boulevard. Not that I would know how to spell boulevard well without a dictionary. Some people put 1707 Post Oak. Some people would put Post Oak Boulevard. Some people would put, something, PS.
New visitor in the
It
queue.
all has to be the same. If we can do that. So make sure that run this through to get a sense of where you are. It's free. It's part of, it's a free tool to use. I have it sitting on the ACTWD website under local. I think you can get to it if you put in citation lock. I had put a pithy little name on this thing so you could CITATIONLOCK.com.
Incoming chat.
Yeah, it's not working. So whatever was hooked up to that, I'll have to look back at it and see why that's not working. But if you go to ACTWD, you can follow it through under digital marketing and then local, and then it says scan my site. So if you can do that, that's a really good spot for you to start to find out where you are. The next thing that you need to do after you decide, and the reason I flip my order is because if you haven't done your Google My Business listing, I would like you to see what the commonality was. If everything says BLVD, Boulevard, and you haven't registered your business yet, then by all means, use what the 80% of the world has. Don't go starting to swim upstream. If you have a Google My Business already, and you want to show that, then you want to make sure that it matches. And then we're going to come over here into this, and we're going to go to Google My Business. And I'm not showing that they're showing the screen. Why is it not showing that it's showing the screen? Maybe Zoom and MailChimp are run by the same people. I'm not sure. Not really. That was a joke. Okay, so if I come to where you're going to go, if you haven't registered your business, this is where you go. If you have registered your business, this is where you go. So it's google.com/business. And if you have a account, you can log yourself in. If you don't have an account, let me use this one to do it with. It's gonna have to send me a code, so we're gonna have to do all this craziness. 5, 4. Now it should work. You can see this is the one that I closed down, so you can see mine's closed, but we're going to use the open one here. So when you come into it, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start to fill out our basic information, which is under info. And we're gonna kind of talk about all of this as we go through it all. The name of your business needs to be the name of your business. John just asked, do I do two-step verification on everything? More and more so. I do think that somewhere one of my passwords got out into the ether. And this way, what I don't do is use an authentication app unless they really actually force me to do it. So, here, go ahead. Go ahead. Go. Sorry about that. So yeah, so that's I don't do it unless I actually have to, but there's been a lot of times now of late that I've had to. So but I try to do it to a cell phone. They tell you no, but I don't know that I necessarily think that it's as bad as they think it is to do it with a cell phone. So, all right. So we come down, we put the name of the business in. Put the name in the business in the way that you use it. So Vertical Web is an LLC. Notice you do not see the words LLC because I am not putting Vertical Web LLC all over the internet. It is going in, it goes in as Vertical Web, period, end of story. Okay. So put your business in the way that you want it to be referred to. Okay. And it's kind of important that you do it that way. The next thing you got to do is take your address. And if you notice my address, and actually this is not right, I am going to fix it right now. And we will see if Google will accept this. They may tell me they need to re-verify, but it seems like so far it's okay. So we'll go with it. But so if you notice they dropped the word freeway, I'm adding it back because it's on the Katy freeway. It's not in Katy. It's not on Katy Road. It's not on Old Katy Road. It is on the Katy freeway. So I went ahead and fixed that. Make sure your address is consistent with how you want it to appear. I have decided, and because I have the thought now to know to do this, I don't use Suite 360. I use pound 360. And I'm doing that on purpose. So pound 360, everywhere you see my address, that's the way it'll be written. Houston, Texas, and then the zip code. So you want to make sure that you go down this list right and you fill in all these things. So we'll do this. You said why not to use a suite? Because I think not everybody uses a suite. It's kind of becomes arbitrary as to what the world uses. So some will do street or suite, STE, some will spell it out, some will do it room, some will do it office. I'm just doing a hashtag a pound 360 and we're done with it. Okay. I want you to use real world, real things here and the way it's going to come out. And I think most people would do suite STE, which then promotes an error and lowers my 100%. Okay, so I have my office hours. We're open 24 hours because of the hosting part of this business. So we have phone, we have service 24 hours. Don't call me with an SEO question at 3 o'clock in the morning. I will not answer you. But if your website's down, I welcome you to call. Okay, so that's that. Not that that happens and I sleep through the night, but we do keep the 24 hours out there because we technically are a 24-hour business. Decide what your phone number is and then keep your phone number. So what I mean when I say that is don't be bouncing your phone number, get a permanent phone number. I have walked away from 800 numbers. I think they're an unusual waste of money in this day and age. So we're going ahead and we're going to go ahead and use the 713-703-3030. I'm going to make sure that that is on everything that way. That's the phone number. And I make sure that I'm very consistent. If you can avoid it at all costs, never change your phone number. And what I will tell you is that this phone number I got through Verizon. It's still with Verizon. It'll always be with Verizon. And that will be the end of it because I want to make sure that I don't go somewhere and are told, well, you have to change your phone number, which I had happen with the ACTWD's number. Where we originally opened our office and then we moved to Kingwood. It's really literally took me nearly an act of Congress to get them to move the phone number from Humble to Kingwood. And they wanted me to change my phone number and I was not going to do it. So we ended up, but it all worked out okay. But at the end of the day, save yourself the effort, get you a phone number that you always have, and do not change your phone number. I mean, I know that sounds like a crazy thing. Do not change your phone number. Don't use your personal cell phone and then say, oh, I'm getting so many calls on my cell phone. I got to get a new cell phone. Don't do it. Get a phone number dedicated to a business, and make sure you have it in control of it and just be done with it. What I will say is that phone number that you see for mine is actually rolled to the main phone to the company. So I can control it. I can control where it goes and it lives outside any business decision. Let me just put it that way. So that's our phone number and the end of the discussion. And we should do that. The next thing, and this is very important on a couple levels as I say this, I want to make sure that everybody knows to do it this way. Pick whether you want your domain to have www with it or not have www with it. They are two different things on some levels, okay? A lot of places will say go with just domain.com, and I would be fine with that, but don't change it. If you have gone with www for the whole life of your whole business, don't change it to add it. If you ever used it and that's the predominant way to do it, then keep it there. I have made the decision to keep the www there. I'm listing everything with it. Every place I make a link, I make with it. Everything that I do has the www because intrinsically it appears more in print with it than without it. So pick the way you go and that's what you need to do. Okay, so just make sure that you're consistent with that. And make sure that you have that right. The next one is to know where your Google might, they added this really long list and it's really a correct list, but it is a long list that they added for me. Google added this, just so you know, They went in and added all these terms for me, which every one of them are accurate except for laser hair removal. I don't know when I do a laser hair removal, they apparently think I have a career path that I don't know I have, but clearly they're confused. So, but that's the only one, but all the rest of these we actually do. And they went in and added these all. So I really don't know what that's all about, but I was like, okay, thank you. If that's what you want to do, have at it. I'm not going to argue with you about it other than the laser hair removal. Make sure that you know where your Google My Business page points to. And try to make a link back to it on the website, on your website. If I go to, I think if I go to vertical web, I can pull it because it's on the footer. I actually embedded the map into the footer of the website. And I would recommend doing that. Let's see if it pulls it up right. Yeah. So this is, oh, that's the map listing. Let me see. You can use this. So make sure that you know where your page is, and how to get to it. Because it's pretty important that you're able to give links out to it. So it pretty much has a number attached to it. It has a location attached to it. Here it's throwing a lot of gobbledygook up into the top of it. And I can, if I need to get you and show you how to do it, I don't want to turn the whole class into how to make my business, my site ID for my website. But at the end of the day, know where your Google My Business is and make sure that you have a link back to it, so that you can link it up off your website and show where your Google My Business page is. Let's see, make sure that you have your hours in, make sure that you have your email address in if you have an email address. Make sure that your business description is well-rounded. Now, I didn't say keyword stuff. Notice I said well-rounded. Don't try to just cram. I wish my friend from Cooper Plumbing was here, because my bet is he would make an entire list of keyword spam in his write-up. But for you guys, make sure it makes sense what you do, that it does use some keywords, but not over the top, egregious, out of line. If you notice, I have everything here that we do, but it makes sense. And when you read it, it makes sense. And it's not like crap in a box. And I think I see that it really does need to make sense. The next thing is your categories, and not to be confused with your services. There's categories that you are up here, and you notice they're balking at the web host because they don't really understand that this company does all three. But I went in and I put the right categories in. If I were you, I would make sure that you put proper categories in. And let's kind of use a lawyer for a second. A lawyer may have a lawyer, an attorney, business law, real estate law. If they don't do probate and family law, let's not put those in there. But try to put in as many categories as you can that accurately represent what your business does. And you see, they will sit judge and jury over it. And like in my case, they're balking at web hosting. I'm okay. If I end up on the internet marketing side and lose the web hosting, I'm really kind of okay with that, to be honest with you. The business is half a web hosting company, half an internet marketing company, but I would much rather have them class me as an internet marketing company than as a web host. It's a much different set of circumstances. So I would make sure that you had all of these items filled out. If you had more hours, special hours, if you have a link for appointments, put your link for appointments in. If you have actual products in, you should consider putting products in. These are all the services, which mine look really weird, but again, that's them. If you are any of the businesses that they let you choose from, okay? And you can see here that, they have several categories here that they let you choose from. If you have anything like, wheelchair accessibility, bathrooms, the whole thing, what you are, just put it in there. So I would make sure that you have all these things that you can and your attributes on here that apply to your business. I think that's important to have. They're socially appropriate to have, and therefore Google appreciates you doing that. And anything that Google appreciates, I'm down for. Okay, because that means I've done something right, and that's a big deal. Make sure that you have, this is another thing. If you happen to have multiple locations, assign a store number so that you have store number 1, store number 2, store number 3, so that there is a clear designation. I know that, like, we had a gentleman that sold cigars and he had 3 locations. So he had store 1, store 2, store 3. So make sure that you are very, very clear in what you do. So is everybody good so far and with where we are? I don't know that I can see you. I don't even know where you are at this point in my life. Let me see. Without stopping. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, just stick them over in the chat window. I think that's probably the best place to put them at this point, so I can keep them answered. The next thing you have to decide is whether you have a brick and mortar. Do you have a service area? Do you have both? If you're a restaurant and you deliver, that's a both. If you're a home-based business, how do I want to say this? Google hates you. Oh, wait, I didn't say that out loud. They love home-based businesses. Not really. I would, and I'll tell you, and I'm going to shut the screen off here for a second because I want you to, I want to make sure that we're in good shape on this question. If you're a home-based business, they have a lot of problems with you because they feel that there's some, I don't want to use the word validity. What am I trying to, credibility problem with it, that you're maybe too small, or that you may not conduct business properly because you're too small. I'm sure they would not say that to somebody. But what I will say to you is that if you're a home-based business and you can get an office space somewhere or somehow take yourself out of that, you're going to be better long-term. I will say that we started as and were a home-based business for a very long time. It didn't mean that we were any better or any worse. What it did was mean that I could hire more people because I wasn't paying for an office. I could provide better customer support because what I would spend on the electric bill in Houston was the value of somebody's paycheck for the day. Okay, so understand that I don't have a bias or an animus against it. But on the other side of the coin, I want to make sure that if you can set up properly and set up with a proper location, that you need to do that. Tiffany's here, and I want to point out something that she did. Yeah, and you're what I'm going to address, because you put Austin on your website, but you want to rank in Houston, and that's a problem. I understand why you did, and we talked about it. They don't like virtual addresses. They want you to use your home address if you have a home address, and then use a service area around it to protect it. I think that if I look at it on a global United States manner, oh, you changed it to a virtual, okay. Is it still, I just looked at it yesterday. It was still Austin. It can't be Austin. If you're in Humble, you need to be in Humble or in Houston. In fact, Houston, not Humble. Okay, all right. I just looked at it yesterday, so I'm hoping that somebody changed it for you, because it was still on the bottom of the website 2 days ago as Austin. Where I'm going with this is that I think there's a security problem. I wouldn't want my home address out there.
Me either. That's stupid.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
That's
That's
dumb.
why I did the virtual.
I should live in Wayne
Well,
Park.
but they don't like the virtual addresses. So just so you know, they're not supporting of it. They're not down for that. Okay. So kind of understand that we've got like this problem. Now, they know when you have a WeWork floor, they know when you're at a Vertus office building. I've seen people that actually have suites inside Vertus that are a problem. Okay. I've seen both of that. So, but that's usually your best spot at this point in time, is that if you can get some type of an address, if the co-working spaces were smart, they would come up with a way to give each of their tenants an individualized office that did not signal that it was a virtualized office. If I was going to run a virtualized office company, I would come up with something like that so that each of you had independent offices, even though you were virtualized, so somebody really couldn't tell. I might suggest, if you wanted to pick a virtual office company, that you ask them what they have to do to get a unique address. Okay, because if you just use the WeWork floor or just use the Vertus floor in the building, there is a chance that they could punt that back to you. Gone are the days of using the UPS store. And the other thing that they just told us last week, we had to talk to them about somebody else. They want your wallpaper picture for your home to be the entrance that you would see from the street. So let me give you an example of that. So we're kind of running around changing everybody's stuff now to make it match, because that's kind of what, literally, that's what the Google rep said, is it has to match. So if you go to vertical web, if you notice, I actually put our front door with the signs on our door. They're actually looking for that kind of, so when you go, if you go to it, that's our main picture, that's our wallpaper picture, is something with our signage. And I had to put signage. They weren't just going to accept it with the 360. I literally had to order signs and put signs up. All right, so I have signs up so everybody can find me now. But they wanted our door, and they wanted signs on the door. And that's what they're asking for. Now, if you think about it, most places that you go that has a business has a sign on the door. So it's not really unreasonable to ask for that. I would imagine if you were in a virtual workspace and you wanted to show a picture with your sign on the door in the modern age, and your sign really wasn't on the door, I would assume that as entrepreneurs, we would all be inventive enough to figure out how to put your sign on the door. Okay, I don't want to actually spell that out, but if you can understand the wink, wink, nod, nod on that, you'll get what I'm saying. These are actual signs. I did not Photoshop drop them on the doors. Those are actual signs. When you pull up, they're really there. But if I had a place that I didn't have a sign on the door, I don't know if you really are going to require me to show a picture of the signage, which is what they're requiring now. Yeah, I don't, just take what I'm saying and interpret it, please. The one thing on mine you can tell is that it's actually real, because there's actually reflections on the glass of it everywhere. So you can actually see that I did not just Photoshop them on the windows. But be smart with what you do. And if you go get a virtual office space and you can produce something with signage on it, it is definitely to your benefit to do that, because that's what they're looking for. They assume that your business is more valid when they see something like this. I don't agree with it. The other thing is, what we have in Houston that not all places have is these deed restricted communities where working from home or having a home-based business is still somewhat frowned upon. We don't need whole neighborhoods with little Sal's Automotive and somebody's real estate agents. And if you start to look at your neighborhood from that way, you may see some of those businesses that were registered to their home address. I think those of you that have known me for a while heard the story of when the guy came to my house to pay his bill, because we were using our home address. And at one day, the guy pulled in my driveway, came up to the door and knocked. He said, "I'm here to drop my bill off. I don't like how you mow your grass. I'm canceling my service." Now, I mow my grass like the Astros with nice lines and whatever. It looked very manicured and looked like I had a professional, because I'm like one of those freaky people putting their lines in their lawn, right? Nope, he didn't like it. Boom, out. He canceled his service because apparently I don't know how to mow the lawn. I don't know what that has to do with website hosting, but so I don't need freaky people coming to my house to pay their bill, and I don't need them to judge my lawn. So it is what it is. On the other, so I do think there's a security hazard there. So I would try to, if you have to go down the virtual office route, see if you can get a unique address that's independent of them, and see if you can get signage in some way, shape, or form. Even if you got it, you know what else you could do? Hang a sign on the door, take the picture, and then take the sign off the door. I mean, there's, like I said, I went and got real signs. I was like, you want signage? I'll put signage. I can't go put a sign out on the road because the city of Houston won't let me do it. So, so Google's kind of acting in a way that's sort of counterproductive. If you want some kind of road sign, you ain't getting that because city of Houston won't let you have it. So now what do you do? And I'm actually in an office park. So these are all those things. So not to get on a bender about the office space, but I'm on a bender about the office space. If you are home based, though, they want to know about it. That's up to you whether you tell them about it or not. Make sure, and I'm going to go back over here, that this is clear where it says about your business and it's clearly defined. Do not be wishy-washy. And Tiffany, this is more you, as I say this, and I think you'll appreciate it. I'm happy to try to help with anybody I got to write these for, but don't be advertorial. You are a nurse staffing agency that provides high-end nursing opportunities for OR nurses and technicians, and this is not the time to come in and say, we will give you the career you're destined to have. Sharp, to the point. This is what I do. Very, very, very clear. No flowery language, just literally almost strip it down to the studs. And this is what you do. And that's how you want your business to be represented. And I think that is a very important part of this, because this is where that's one of the pieces that I see fall away from the wayside. Understand that if you do all of this right, it will increase foot traffic, it will increase leads from the website, it will increase engagement. You want to do these things right because that is that important. Okay. So now that I kind of talked about how to fill this main screen in, I want to talk about some of the outside things that go on in this world. Because they look at your website and then they look at your business listing and then they evaluate the two. If you look at any business, you need to make sure that the technical SEO on the website is done right. So if we come back over to here, let me go over here. Even this page, I did it on. So if you notice, I have the technical on this is pretty well buttoned up, pretty good, I will say, because I can tell it's ranking pretty well. I'm going to actually use the web design tab because this is the oldest one. So I have a challenge that most of you don't have. My business is national, even though we're in Houston, and I have to say, I think if I really thought about it, probably 70% of the customers are in Houston, but the web hosting business, those folks came from everywhere. So I had to make sure that I captured Houston, but didn't alienate and everybody else. So if you notice, what I did here is on the technical aspects of it, I've got Houston Web Design Company. And in fact, I may move that development because it's messing up things, having it. I may say Web Design Company and Development Firm. I think I'm going to change that. Okay. But I have Local Web Design, Website Design Houston. And you notice what I did is I put a comma so it sounded like Houston. I was talking to the city. These are signals that I am putting together for Google. If you notice, this says Houston Web Design and More. The reason I keep putting the and more or the other pieces is so that I can overcome some of this need to let people know that we do it for people outside of Houston as much as we do inside of Houston. But all these headers and all within here, the text of this all had to be right. If you notice, I have the Houston, Texas on the bottom. I make sure my address matches. These are all signals. So you have to make sure that these headers are all buttoned upright so that Google understands where you are, what you're doing, what services you provide, and what city you provide them in. The web marketing page is also optimized. If you look over here, we've got Houston SEO Company. Not every Houston SEO company is created equal. I have it down here again, Houston SEO Agency, Houston SEO Services. It's not that I'm trying to beat somebody over the head with it. It's because those are the signals that it took to get this website to where I need it to rank. So and again, please understand this website's only been up since January 1. But if I go to web design, Houston, let's do that. I do presence. You see, it says that I'm in the 16th, 14th position. If you look, you see the office is here again. Remember, I'm doing this from Kingwood, so there is that piece of it that is a part of a little bit of a problem. I need to, so these places are, and let me see if I pull this in, if it, I'm still fighting a little bit to get the map listing for the web design because SEO 411 was just the SEO part of it. So the web design is kind of new, but even still, you see it still pulls up if I go in far enough with it. But the way I got that to appear is because of all the things that I put on my local page. That localization of that page. Now, I have had people say, well, what if I just made a page the same over and over and over again for multiple cities? Please don't do that. You will be banned. You need to follow best practices for what's the right way to do these things. And making a page that says the same thing over and over and over again and just saying the city does not make the right way to do this. So understand that that's a piece of it. But if you look back, and when I say button up, I've buttoned up all the parts of this page to send the signals to Google so that they understand. If I could back up, okay, we'd be good. So they understand what we do. You notice this is screaming at them off the top here. It's also screaming at them if I start to come down here. And I'm still trying to balance between being national and local. So I've had that problem, but I just need to make sure that you have the stuff sort of buttoned up so that that Google understands the what you're trying to do and that you're providing those signals to them. You want to make sure that you also are unique in what you do. Okay. So even though I'm going to say I'm a Houston web design company, I had to make my brand of that be unique. What are the pieces and the things that we do? What are, and these boxes here actually set us apart about how, with our web design services, what extra things do I provide that most companies or, most units don't have the great amount of backing for. So we went in and we added these boxes so that we could bolster our relevance and be unique within the marketplace. And I had to sit down and I really had to think about what makes me unique. A web design company that actually understands SEO for real is a very rare find. So that's kind of, where we are on that. The other thing you need to do is to be an authority. How long have you been doing something? If you've been in business, you've been serving Houston for 20 years, please say, I've been serving Houston for 20 years. If you work with, and I'll show you how I did it on mine. And again, I'm using mine as an example because what's interesting about this website now is because I just built it, it's built with the most latest standards in place already. Whereas time goes on, you start to get a little bit away from that because you have a ranking, you don't want to change it, but this thing is hyper tuned up right now to do this. So when we come down here and we talk about where the heck is it? Here, in this box here, we actually set the paradigm that we work with the Houston West Chamber and the places that we do, Houston Community College, SCORE, Lone Star, all of them. They're all mentioned throughout this website because that gives us the authority that we're allowed to do that. If you have programs that you work with somebody like that, please put them somewhere on the website that says that you do that. You need to set apart your authority. That authority and how long you've been in the marketplace in an area is really important. If you have people that have been with you for a long time, add them. If you notice, I actually added some of our older customers sitting right here. So I allowed these other people to come and sit here because some of these folks have been with us for a really long time. And that establishes, look, this guy's been with me since 2006. What are we at? 16 years, 17 years. He wants another 17 years, so, and that's great. But those are the kind of things that establish that you're an authority in the marketplace and that you are an authority in your business and what you do. Use those on the website where you can. If you're kind of on the new side, no, you're not going to be able to do that. And I understand that. We'll just have to find ways to work around that. But if you can back up with what you're saying, please do. The other thing I did is I pulled our reviews right into the homepage. And I did it in a way that worked for me because I did them as text links. I just didn't put, we have this many Google reviews or whatever. I actually had them worked into the page to do them this way. And I would recommend doing that. And if you notice what I did, I took some of the Chamber of Commerce's. There's 2 of the Chamber of Commerce's are represented in that top 5. Eventually what's going to happen is somebody will come in over the top of it, put another review in, and it'll knock them down. But for right now, I've got high profile entities leaving the reviews. So if you can do that, and you notice there's no doubt I'm in Houston. I've got the Houston Chambers, the 2 of them giving me reviews for that. Okay. So these are signals. This is all built. The whole thing is built on the signals that you send back to Google. I'm trying to think where else I want to go. Oh, okay. So another problem that you have, and we all have this, and Houston is particularly difficult because Houston is 180 square miles long and wide. If I went to the Northeast and drove 180 miles, I might be through 3 states. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand the way Texas works and the way Texas geography works and the way the postal system works down here. So it says Houston, and they assume that everybody's right around Texas Avenue. And the further you get away from Texas Avenue, the worse off you are. Now, what's interesting for my business is most of the web design companies are in the Galleria. So they have kind of moved that epicenter to the Galleria, which is why that address out on I-10 right by the Beltway kind of works, because I'm sort of in that area, sort of not in that area. And it just kind of is working much better than it did trying to say I'm in Kingwood, and Kingwood's part of Houston. And I'm sorry, City of Houston or Google, but you need to get a geography lesson because we vote for the mayor of Houston. They don't care about all that. So you need to make sure when you pick these virtual addresses, I used to not really care. And I'd say, go pick the cheapest one you can find. I'm now going to say, try to find something in the most best proximity to the area that you do business in. If you're in the Galleria, please use a Galleria address or find some workspace in the Galleria that you can use, because you need to have the Galleria if that's where you are. So you want to make sure that you have that kind of traction if you need it. So make sure that's going on. Make sure that you have, and I'm going to show you, make sure you got 2 things going on here. One is you need your name, address, and phone number at the bottom of every page on your website. Okay. So like I said, you notice I did it. I actually snapped in the map because that's a signal to Google. You notice I didn't snap the, Kingwood people or the Kingwood map in, because I don't want, what am I trying to say? I don't want bad people coming in that way. I don't want them to try to pigeonhole me back to Kingwood. So I don't put the Kingwood map on here at all. So just so you're aware that I'm doing that sort of on purpose. So there is that aspect to this as well. So make sure you have it on your footer. Make sure that you have the right information there if you need it. And then what we'll do is also, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have our contact us page this way. And I want to show you what I did. Huh? All right, let me see. So I thought somebody said something, but. All righty, so let's come up to the contact us page. And if you come to, let me see, did I go to the right page? No, I need this page. If you come to this page here, what you'll see is, again, I made sure I have my address here on it that I need. I make sure that I have the Kingwood address here, and I made sure that I have the address for Hanover here. So because our billing address for our customers is going to still be our Hanover address. I made sure that I had all of them there. Okay, so I'm making sure that I have a solid contact us page that basically represents what I want it to represent, which is Houston. I did sneak Hanover in Pennsylvania because I have to, because I don't want anybody paying their bill going, where did this address come from? I'm not putting the Pennsylvania address on the bottom of the website. I'm not going to actually put I'm not actually even going to put it on the footer. I really am going to stick it and stay right where I need to stay with it, because again, I'm very cognizant of the sorry about that. We were just talking about this today. So, and you guys come and go. So I apologize that just did that. But anyway, all right. So let's go to the next thing we are talking about here.
Shut up, idiots.
Huh? All right, so let's go to the
Shut
next
up,
one.
idiots.
I'm trying to figure out who's talking here. All right, so the next point we've got to do.
Shut up, idiots. Idiot, shut
Let me stop sharing here a minute so I can see. And this is another one, huh? Take that one out too. Get rid of all of them. No, it's not. It's what they're trying to do is bomb on in, and I let them in, and because they came up, you guys all come in with your iPhones unlabeled, so that's my fault for doing that. So anyway, like I said, I apologize for that they did that. That's my fault for letting them in. I usually am pretty good at spotting them, but those were anyway. When you come in with an iPhone, if you wouldn't mind putting your name on your iPhone, it does make it easier, because some of you guys come in and they say iPhone and Samsung, and I can't tell whether it's you or somebody else. So that's what that is. But anyway, make sure now, and we have done things like this. And if you're going to do it, and I let's say, Sarah, I'm actually going to use you because I met you up in the Woodlands, but you're actually in Houston yourself, right? So if you did business in the Woodlands and you had groups of people in the Woodlands, I may put up a places I do business page, and I may put a Woodlands page there. And inside that Woodlands page, I may put some good information about the Woodlands. I may put whatever is unique about the Woodlands and put that as a service area on my website, and build a good, solid, strong page that says, the Woodlands is in Montgomery County, Texas. This is the police, the fire, whatever for that. There's several businesses there. And I'm trying to think of what they are because they're drawing a blank. The hell is the one that's Huntsman is up there. Okay, Exxon is up there. Anadarko's up there. So I might list some of the larger businesses that are up there that may be relevant to what I do. If I'm involved with the Houston, with the Woodlands Chamber of Commerce, I might put the Woodlands Chamber of Commerce down. There's a whole lot of things that I might do. If I wanted to say I'm in the Woodlands and I have a presence in the Woodlands, and I would make a really unique, really informative, solid, good Woodlands page. I then would come down and I might even say, compare and contrast the business types that are in the Galleria versus what's in the Woodlands. I don't know if there's a lot of oil and gas in the Woodlands. I think downtown is a little bit more diverse these days. It's not everybody's oil and gas downtown. There's sure a lot of it, but the Woodlands have kind of become like the oil and gas capital for all these large corporations these days for some bizarre reason. But I might go ahead and start to put that in there and make sure that I have good contact information, that I have good information about the area, that I have a good solid address in that area, that my map is clickable in that area, that I have anything that's specific to that area that we offer. So let's say you're trying to develop in the Woodlands, you go and run a special in the Woodlands, you have a Woodlands specific special, you have a Galleria specific special. You make sure that if you have any user guides or anything specific for that city, that you write a page that's really a good solid with a lot of different things on that page that are about that city. So again, it sends signals that we service that city. And that's the pieces of this that you really need to make sure that you understand is, how do I put stuff on my website that backs up what I do? Okay. Another thing that you could do is you could do if images from around the city. So if you notice, I'm sure you didn't notice, but everybody's kind of making fun of me these days because, I'm like the photographer person, right? So what I did is almost every picture that you see on this website at this point, or some way, shape, or form, I took. So if you look at, and let me put the homepage back up again so you can see this a minute. I did this on purpose because the metadata is in those photos and they kind of can see where these pictures were taken and they're not stock images. Let me put that back up on the screen so you can see what I did. And I did a lot of this with my cell phone, guys, so it's not like I'm doing anything crazy. This is a data center that's off the West Park Tollway. This is an event that happened up in for Houston Northwest Chamber up, God, I forget where the heck it is, but it's out 1960 somewhere in Cypress Creek. This is a building in smack in the middle of downtown Houston. I took every one of these with my cell phone. So I'm encouraging you to do that kind of thing. They don't ding you for stock images. They're not going to penalize for you. But like when I'm sitting here putting real pictures up, they do understand that those are not anywhere else kind of thing. And the metadata, I put it up with the metadata in the pictures. If you look here, also the background on the picture for the class is actually a class. This was a class I taught at Lone Star College. This was out on Beltway 8 and I-45. So I'm putting pictures around on this website that show we're all around Houston. In fact, I think I'm going to put a picture of our front door on the page, even though it's not the prettiest front door in the whole world. I think I'm going to put a picture of the front door because it shows that on West Houston, it actually shows really pretty much that we go all the way from I-10 and the Beltway all the way up to I-45, all the way up to Conroe, because of the pictures that I put on this website and on my profile. And I'm doing that on purpose. My business partner laughs at me and they're like, well, why do you keep putting your own pictures up? First of all, I am blessed that I'm able to take good pictures. But second of all, the reason I keep putting my own pictures up is because my own pictures paint the picture of where this business runs and is from. So don't be afraid to use stock footage, but if you can use a real picture and you take a real picture and that picture has the metadata in it, please put it on the website. And then we're also going to stick it inside the Google images. If you come over here, you can post these to the photos right off your website. And I'm very systematic in the pictures that I choose because they paint a picture of where we are. So again, we did an event with the Houston Northwest Chamber. So that was out Kirkendall, one piece. This is the ranch office. This is Tech Space. This is Woodway. Every one of these pictures paints a picture of where I am. I need to walk away for just a second. I will be right back. If you all can just, I'll stay a little bit longer today. I just need to walk away just for a minute, and I apologize for that. Hold on just one little second, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay. Let me see what we got. All right, so let me keep going on here because there's so much to cover on this. We're gonna have to have a secondary local day, I think. So, okay. So I want to make sure we're talking about doing pictures. I do pictures from all over the city. Now, do you need to have local landing pages? I'm going to say the answer is pretty much no. See, I'm going to let somebody in. We'll see if they're a real person or not. I'm going to say no. We normally don't have to have a landing page for a specific area at all. Okay. So don't think you have to do that. It kind of hedges on the edge of being spammy. So if you did do it, make sure you do it right. I'm not recommending it. I'm not saying that you have to. I'm just saying that, you know, beware with it, but if you do it well. I think that's probably the best way to say that.
Someone charge
Hold on a minute. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's see what else I need to talk about. I'm going to say this just so I can say this and you know, all of a sudden here I've been hitting websites that aren't this way. So I'm just going to kind of say it just to say it. Make sure your website's secure, that it's HTTPS. I've run into a whole bunch of them lately that are not. So just make sure that we're doing that part right. If you, and I'll show you this on my site, I did this on my pages and I would recommend doing this. If you notice, when you go to the web design page, it does say Web Design Houston as the page name. I would recommend, if it is a localized place or if you have a page that's specific for it, to go ahead and put the city in the page. Now, what I wouldn't do is make a Web Design Houston, a Web Design The Woodlands, a Web Design Kingwood, or I'm not going to do that. I have one page. The home page is Web Design Houston, and this is the starting page for all other pages about web design. So as I have one now that I need to add that talks about the difference between web design and web development. That will be underneath this page. So it'll be a child of this page. So just understand that I'm not doing crazy things, but I just need to make sure that I do some of these properly. It will at times, if you do this, borrow this piece here from the URL string and actually show that in the Google search results. So you do want to make sure that you name your page and your naming conventions are right. The other thing, if you notice, I did, and this is an important thing, notice the name of the page is called, and if you can see, you might not be able to see it. Hold on, I might not have my screen on again. I'm getting confused whether it's on these days. Okay, if you notice what I did, the title tag on the page is Houston Web Design, best website designer in Houston. The reason I did that is because they're looking for a location in your title tag. So if you do, Sarah, you're still doing your DJ event production, right? That's what you're doing, event productions and lighting and all that stuff. So you may put lighting and event planning, Houston, Texas, so that there's a delimiter of where that business is. So make sure that you kind of put it in your title tag as well, because that's kind of an important little signal. If you don't have that signal, you're going to kind of be messing things up a little bit. So you need to make sure that you do that. Now, don't do that if the page is not about that. You don't want to go and throw stuff out there that is not relevant. So don't game the system if it's not a legit reason or a legit thing to do. So I just want to make sure that we kind of have that piece in alignment. I'm trying to make sure I hit as much as I can here on this. Does anybody have any questions? I know that I kind of tend to cover a lot of material here, and you guys have been in this venue. It always is very quiet. That I see, like sometimes I do a lot of talking. You guys don't get your questions in. But does anybody have any questions at this point before I kind of continue on with all of this? Okay, then I'm just going to keep going on. I told you to do your pictures. Make sure that you put Houston or wherever you are on your meta descriptions of your pictures. If you take the pictures yourself, some of that location information is inside the metadata of the photo. Don't strip it out. Leave it in there. If you can put the photo off your cell phone right into Google, that data will be preserved. And you want to do that. Now, what you're not going to do is start spamming the hell out of Google from wherever you go. I'm very specific on what I do. So your camera has the metadata turned on it, on your phone. And actually, I have an iPhone 13, and they've made it a little bit easier to see. So if you turn on your phone and you touch your picture and you hold the picture down or push the eye information button, I don't know if you'll be able to see this because it's probably too hard to see. Let me see where this is. Let me stop this screen sharing for just a second. Okay, I'm going to try to see if you can see this. But if you look at my cell phone, if I'm trying to hold it where you can see it the best, you see there's data on that cell phone. I can't, I'm trying to get it to focus again. Oh, it's shut off now. All right, if you look at it, you can see that it's got the map, it's got the data from that. That's the metadata that the picture has. It's because I have location services on, so it's constantly tracking. So like I took a picture last night coming out of my office of the sunset with the Metro National building with it lit up in blue. Okay, I'll go throw that somewhere out there because it says right where I am, right where the building is, where the location is, what the longitude and the latitude of that picture are. So I may actually just go throw this up on Google My Business and put, it's so nice to come out of my office and see something like that, because that data is all captured within the phone, within the picture. So Google uses that because they assume that you're not going to manipulate it. I will say that I do have a tool that I can manipulate that with if I really wanted to. I tend not to, just simply because I feel like it's I don't have to do it. I take my pictures, I take them legitimately, I put them up legitimately, and I don't really need to jiggle the locks too much on them. So just make sure your location service is on, and it solves a lot of that problem. All right, so let's see. I didn't do that on this website, or I didn't do that on this website. And I don't think I ever will. Let me come back to Google Chrome here a second. I have a decision to make on this website, because theoretically it should have the word Houston here somewhere in this navigation bar. And I just can't bring myself to do it. If you look at, I'm still dismantling this website. So a lot of it's broken at this point and smashed up, but it's on purpose. But if you look, I've taken it off. This actually had a drop down that said Houston SEO on it. And it was really done that way on purpose. I've kind of taken these pages down so they're not there anymore, because I've already grabbed them and used them. But they actually were named on the navigation Houston SEO packages, because this was just Houston and I could get away with it. So if you can do that somewhere, Houston CPA services, do it. Why not? I wouldn't do it on everything. Again, this is a do it in moderation discussion. It's not how many times can I slam something in and get away with it. It should be done right. But if you're offering Houston CPA services, there's nothing wrong to say Houston CPA services on my navigation bar. Houston bookkeeping services, Houston event lighting. You know, I mean, there's ways to do it, and to do it tactfully and gracefully, if you will. That's the on-site piece. Let's see what else we've got. The next thing that you need to do, and it's always funny that when I do this class, I need to remind everybody, if you don't have a Chamber of Commerce membership, you need a Chamber of Commerce membership. That membership helps Google determine that you are a legitimate business. And it also helps Google determine where you are, because you're not really going to go have a Chamber of Commerce probably in Tennessee unless you have a footprint somewhere in Tennessee. I'm not going to be in the Houston West Chamber of Commerce if I'm in Dallas and I don't have any other office and building. So they're using those business directory listings and your memberships as a way to determine where your business is. Okay, so just remember to get your information in there. If you don't have a Chamber of Commerce membership, you need a Chamber of Commerce membership. I'm going to say that the Houston West, which is the one that's sponsoring this one, I'm not saying it for a reason beyond this, but I run that website. That website's a pretty powerful website. The Houston Northwest Chamber has the same set of circumstances. Both those links help validate, because they both, when I put them in, they both kind of take over the whole Northwest quadrant, if you will, of the city. So they're both powerful. And if you wanted to branch out further, it would be worth to put both of them together to have both of them. So that's a big deal. And then the other thing that you want to look at is directory listings. And if you notice, Yelp is a directory. Yahoo has their directory. There's a lot of different directory services. So you may want to consider making sure that you have listings within them, because they're equally important. Those data aggregators push out to the directories push out to the search engines. So your presence, if I said I was in New Jersey, but everything was in Houston, they would pick up that disconnect and say, wait up a second, everything you have is in Houston. Why are you saying you're in New Jersey? So just understand that that those aggregator and the business directory listings are extremely important, and that we need to know what's going on there. Let's see. I'm trying to think what I missed here. I will say that you do need to be putting up local pages or localized pages and blog posts of content. I also, as I always do, recommend pushing them out onto social media if you have it. Those are important. Those are more important pieces also to help build all of this. When I do these things, if you notice, I'm always pushing out the classes. I push them out virtually, but they all have a localized component of them, because they're all listed as being in Houston, even though you can attend from all over the country. We have, some of my hosting customers from Pennsylvania have showed up in this class now. So we have people coming from all over the place, not just from our local Houston little bubble anymore. It's great that we're able to do this and be able to send that out to us that way. So I just, understand that if you do this right, you can start to pull together your localized area. Should you get out in other places that, you still want to reemphasize where you are, because I'm really talking about local search, but, just try to make sure you do these things in a way that Google understands where you are, that you're building authority, that you're doing the things that they need to see to run your business right. And I mean, that really is what that starts to come down to, is what do you run your business right by their metrics? Okay. you know, I feel like we post our stuff out, we put our, you know, I do local news spots. Sometimes I'm in the local newspaper. I do a lot of things to establish myself as an authority in Houston. I don't know when's the next time the Super Bowl is coming, but if it is, you guys need to pay attention, because that's the opportunity to put yourself, especially like with lighting and all, that puts you on a much better place. And there's been a lot of our business owners that the last time the Super Bowl was here, they were able to get some listings that gave them more credibility because they were on bigger places, but talked about Houston. So it really starts to look about, like, to get on that map is essential. Some of us have a harder time of it than others. I would say an SEO company, a web hosting company, has a much harder lift than Jim and his plastics recycling stuff that he does. So, you know, each and every one of us is different. So I want to open up and see if there's any questions. I think I'm where I want to stop today, to be quite honest with you. I think the only, actually, let me just say this so I say it. Reviews are important. Keywords and reviews are important. If you can get your customers to write a keyword that says Beth is great at SEO, that would be awesome. I've used Beth in her SEO service now for 15 years. Awesome. Okay. Those would be good things to do. I've used Beth as a web hosting company for 20 years. Awesome. If we've done that, great. Let's put it in writing and put it out in the reviews. Your customers should leave reviews that are specific to the services you provide. Don't just say, and I've had to work with a couple of my dentist's office. Don't just say, Dr. Paul is great. Dr. Paul is a great dentist. She did a root canal. My teeth don't hurt. Dr. Paul is fantastic. She did a great fitting on a crown. You know, be specific in what you do. And actually, when you're leaving reviews for businesses, think that way, because that helps them if you put those keywords on what you bought from somebody. I would say one of the things that we tell our business owners is, if you send an email and you solicit a review, ask for what are the specific services that you receive from my company. And that way that will help, you know, direct what that looks like and how we get there. Okay. So what other questions do we have before I head out for the day? Everybody's quiet. I know you're all muted, but you can't unmute yourself and ask a question. If there's no other questions, I'm going to leave it there for today. We'll revisit this at a later date, I'm sure, because this is one of those things that we need to kind of stay up with. Couple of yous I owe some stuff to. I will get that to you hopefully this week. It's just been a little hectic. The ice storm threw everything into a tizzy last week. It was like an ice storm that wasn't an ice storm, in case you were all around. It happened, but it didn't. It just made everything crazy. And then somebody asked me how to get in touch with me. Just call our main desk. It's 713-703-3030, and then my extension is 701. Yes, and you can join other chambers. I don't have a, you know, you can join other chambers. I don't have a problem. I'm just giving you two that are going to give you a little bit better leg up. You know, the Heights, I was down there for a while, and, you know, their website was not at the time, and I haven't looked at it lately, so I don't want to, I mean, I could look at it and change what I was going to say, but when Jacob had it, it was not as powerful as some of these other ones. So if you wanted to be in the Heights, great. But if you wanted to be in the Heights because of the value of the Chamber of Commerce, the value of their website in Google, I would never have suggested that one. Right now, the way I look at it right now is it's Houston West, Houston Northwest. The Woodlands does a good job. So there is, those are the ones that I would really, and honestly, I don't have a membership at the Woodlands and nothing to do with them, but they've done a good job. So there is that too, but each and every one of them have different benchmarks on them. So, all right. So with that, anything else? All right. With that, then I'm going to shut down, and I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Have a happy Valentine's Day, and we will be back the last week in February, if you can believe we're almost done with February at the rate we're going. It's kind of going by fast already. So take care, everybody.